Hello, my name's Gavin, this is Genre Books, this is the A to Z of Lost Penguins, episode number 14, and the third episode just of works beginning with the letter S. So I'm looking at titles which have been dropped from the Penguin Classics range, specifically the Penguin Classics range when they used to look like this, with the beige cream border and the colour-coded spine. This is the format that I remember as the Penguin Classics when I was embarking on my literature journey, so this is the one I'm lamenting works that have passed from it. And S seems to be a very popular letter. And we begin today with two works by an author big at the time, possibly not as well known today, but will still get name recognition. Tobias Smollet. Other works from Smollett remain in the Penguin Classics range. So Roderick Random, Humphrey Clinker, Peregrine Pickle. They all are written in the same vein, slightly comedic, very picaresque, but two of the works that were in the range no longer. The Adventures of Ferdinand Count Fathom. This was based very much on was it Gil Blas by Lesage. This one, Frederick Count Fathom, I don't think was as well received at the time, but came a bit more back into vogue when Smollett became more widely read at a point in the 20th century, which has come and gone, so maybe his time will come again. The author certainly has an interesting enough story. He is an author, he was a playwright, he was a naval surgeon. He also, as well as writing novels, translated European works to English, including probably most famously Don Quixote, but also a number of Enlightenment works that had been coming out of Europe at the time. He was also an editor of a periodical, the Critical Review, and whilst he was editor of the Critical Review, he had a libel case brought against him, which he lost and had to pay a large fine and spent 3 months in prison. The experience of which he used for the second book dropped by Penguin Classics, The Life and Adventures of Sir Lancelot Greaves. A completely different area of literature next dropped is 6 Yuan Plays, translated by Leuwen. So these are 13th and 14th century plays written in China under the shadow of the Khans post the Mongol invasions. These, I think, are translations of the Ming versions of these Yuan dynasty plays. They include The Injustice Done to Tu Ngo, Autumn in the Han Palace, and The Orphan of Cao, which was a play that was an inspiration to Molière when he wrote The Orphan de China. I haven't read these, and I think I'm pretty much safe in saying I've not read any 13th or 14th century Chinese plays, but if I see this one about, I'm picking it up, because why not? There must be something there. Molière saw something. If he saw something, there's something to see. Fast forward 3 centuries for the 4th book in this episode, and back to England, or more specifically, because it's set in 1709, so after the Acts of Union, the United Kingdom. Richard Steele and Joseph Addison, selections from the Tatler and the Spectator. So these were two magazines from the early 18th century, not to be confused with their modern namesakes, which have merely pilfered the name. So the Tatler is not Tatler. It was a magazine about what was going on. It took a lot of gossip from the coffee houses. It had its definite editorial opinions and political bent, and as such, Richard Steele went under the name of Isaac Bickerstaff, like many contributors at what was still a fractious time in publishing magazines. He went under pseudonym, also writing for this magazine, Joseph Addison and Jonathan Swift. The Tatler was liquidated in 1711 and was replaced by the Spectator. Now, again, the Spectator from the 18th century, nothing to do with the modern Spectator, a right-wing publication that used to be fairly sensible and is currently disappearing up its own fundament in real time. This magazine sounds much better. It was very influential. It didn't have a wide circulation, but this seems to be like the Velvet Underground of magazines. It only had a 3,000 subscriber circulation, but some of its readers were very influential indeed, not least Benjamin Franklin and James Madison, who took some ideas and decided to run with them in the colonies. We'll see what happened there. But hop over the channel to the continent for books number 5 and 6. Marie-Henri Beyle, better known to us as Stendhal. Now don't worry, the Scarlet and the Black remains in Penguin Classics, as does On Love and the Charterhouse of Parma. However, we have lost a couple. Lucien Leuwen and the Life of Henry Brulard. That last one is a thinly disguised autobiography. Lucien Leuwen was that was the follow-up to the Scarlet and the Black, or was going to be the follow-up to the Scarlet and the Black, but they got into difficulties whilst writing this. It was not published at the time. It was not completed at the time, but ended up getting published at some point later in 1894. So he was writing at the very beginning of the 19th century or end of the 18th century. So it took a while for this work to come out, and it's gone away again. We've already seen plenty of times in this little series that popularity is no guarantee of staying in the Penguin Classics range, and this is a writer who has remained popular forever. You will, I'm guessing, have read at least one of his works. Robert Louis Stevenson. So don't worry, it's not Jekyll and Hyde, it's not Treasure Island, it's not Kidnapped, but we have lost Weir of Hermiston and Other Stories and In the South Seas. So a work dropped from both sides of his career as a fiction writer and as a travel writer. Weir of Hermiston is, well, like Lucien Leuwen, an unfinished work, but it is presented here along with a number of his short stories. In the South Seas is a posthumous collection of travel articles and essays, which came out 2 years after his death in Samoa. So these are the last things that Stevenson was writing. And it's the last thing on my list for today. There are yet more S's to come. I think just one more episode of works beginning with S. And then we can move on to the rest of the alphabet. But until next time, bye.